Hello, this is Fritz. No, Friedrich. I could abbreviate it, Fritz. The 20th of September, and this shall be short. And this time I want to give you a little bit, not about my mother and not about my mother. Both are mothers. It is their decision. And my role model, our role model, was expected back from the war, but he did not come, but molded my being raised, my being raised as the child of both. And Papa, he was Papa. He was the working father, but my real father, and I knew that, was this Fritz expected back. And this is my mother, being, as she said, shocked. The expectation she had in others was their honesty being fulfilled. And this is for me a detective work. I do not want to run to fast results. I do not want to run to anything. I rather don't like the idea. But I'm giving you evidence after evidence, and this one is really an evidence, but it is as well something I did not understand back then. It is not about this king that I read in the papers. I understood in other parts of the world there is renowned or of some accepted lineage. With me that was not known, but I heard about the problems, and only that what was given me, not it wasn't, that was rather sometimes being counseled about. There was counseling, and I heard it, and it was between the ages, this maybe at these ages, and I was reading books. My mother had bought books, mostly second-hand, no, not second-hand, mostly a little bit cheaper than ordinary. Maybe after the introduction wasn't that successful. Those were books about history, historical novels. And I had those as, not that I was urged to read them, but I read them as well. And those were role models, but long ago, the knights of the so-called Dark Ages, and then came a real Dark Age that I didn't like at all. There people became different. This was a little bit communicated as well, what I want to show you again from this other brother. There was a post, some rights involved with it, and then there was discussion, and I did not hear too much. What I understood, it is about all things then being somehow contracted to other users, or what. And this is still a question mark, and I had not too much interest. Who is that? This is of importance because my mother, she communicated not only with her words, but understood she was having much respect in this area. And I myself had a visit I do not want to communicate about. It is something where you understand, for others, this has a meaning, even not communicated. And for me, it then should as well, but who's that? Oh yeah, of course, I stood there at this Kaserne des Regiments, or it was a building that was similar. Maybe it was a building similar, and this is something I could change. This is an overlay. I could put it that way, You understand? It is artificially put together. Maybe I was there, and this was to follow a wish of my, in asking it. It was not, I wish you do that, or I say you, but you can help me. And with that I was raised. My mother was alone. The father was in somewhere, not in combat. You might say he was forced to join the Volkssturm. He had been policing, and that he did with the remark, maybe I can help from that position. And then someone else came and said there had been a man from Silesia talking to one of Ausberger. He had strange ideas to withstand from inside the system. But it could be someone else. It was only a remark. But now I put pieces together. And this is about those. My mother had respect. But she said those people came to help because it was something they heard. And I now understand it is not the old times. It is not about the solutions in combat. It is not about that anymore. And sometimes when nothing is working, and this is of course something the lady is not in the program, and I'm looking, what was it that I was raised for? And this is now offline that I not come into difficulties. And this is my speculation that the internet is somehow deliberately, maybe not. I understood those riders had been then in the Olympics, and there was from others, because our income was never a topic, and not there was not enough to distribute it, but there was sources. There had been sources, and therefore I concluded, my mother, and I asked her, she was like a counselor behind counselors for politics and the industry. And this is the picture again. I go through it. And something important was about it, but it was a little bit to be cautious. I would never ask a thing that would then be fulfilled, because the method today to go against injustices, and many people thought the pushing away of the reigning nobility was injustice, because with it there were other changes. And now I think about it, people sometimes think a change in leadership could solve things, but I know there are many contracts, and it goes of course what the network of water, currency, and the nourishment, the shop system, and that, and the other things is concerned. And then the internet came and changed a lot, and this was already there, that it got internationally. There was trying, and this is important as well, there had been a network that was not divided. This was a man, I thought he could not come from Russia. I don't know if it has been himself. He was an engineer, and it was very often trained. If you met someone, you first had to find out his character, his thinking about things, and there was openness, and he was someone of the character I'd rather position somewhere else. But this is important, that what is in the papers is not everything. And he is there, not a Nazi fire stick in his hands. It had been a development that was somehow internationally, and then it was produced in this part of the world. And it was private, of course. I did not understand that it was extraordinary, and other things were that as well, that there was interest, and this was recognition that I am the son of Fritz or of Karl, because the Eastern style, and this is with me, thinking about your forefathers, you are in their shoes. Maybe the result is a little bit different. To be a successor in this part of the world, there is legal requirements that you accept things. Maybe with others, that's different. Therefore, the thinking of the travelsman and many, and he is, of course, for me, I was much younger. He was having a standing because of his helping me, and this was not a thing that we argued about. It was when I asked, I got explanations, and somehow this is mystery for me as well, still today, on this date. And to show you that it is today, I have this police reporting, or I already showed it to you. This is something. No, it is filtered. Blue is filtered, and therefore you cannot see. This is digital. On the fly, put together. 2 cameras. I'm not in favor of armament of defense weapons, but in necessary circumstances, without you're lost. And knowing the history, that was never proven. It was like fairy tales. There had been the necessity of those people that were communicated as being 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago among the forefathers, and that on the eastern side, those had the necessity to defend themselves in small groups. But then others said those had been the wild riders, and it even should go through, as we say in German, also es würde dann so weit gehen sogar. It is not through, it is going even as far as, I don't know how many 100 years ago, as Iran. And those tribesmen, and this is not officially there anymore, those had other religion, agnostics and Muslim as well. And now understanding, I have different things to look into. There was a background very much legendary, and then those people understood, those forefathers, and I have a distance. I don't understand everything. Maybe in future times I can have them more close. Those had been fighting people, and there was a war on the street. And think about the Dark Ages. Something was dark. There was pestilence, and the people who knew about remedy, natural herbs, being like antibiotic, could survive, for example. And there had been surgeons, and understanding that those had been, because of the urgency, being the inventors from of old. And then some inventions were put on the market, and someone who wrote it down was the inventor. You'd never understand, but in this case, there was the Zündnadelgewehr. I don't know who that had been. My mother said she was from the so-called western side. My mother said, this is my mother. I'm standing there. I can still remember. The clothes had connections to Sweden. And my mother, the younger, she had a friend. But this friend was changing. This girlfriend was changing when becoming the wife of a leader. And this leader was in development somehow, but I was never explained if that was a figure, a little bit, but there were others being in the papers. Therefore this was not the topic. I was not asking who are you, but there were someone, or there was someone being invited, and this was sometimes belling, klingeling on the door, and we opened and someone introduced himself, and this was possible back then. You had to be a good nose, whose people to trust, but now I'm of course understanding this man was not dangerous, I understood, but coming from Russia I thought, is that true? And then I met someone else, and it is of course true that the papers say things, tell you things that are not true. And possibly, I can't say it, but it is possible that I once met him. And this is something, I had not the browser open, it is not online, but this was strange as well. And there was a man at the doorstep, and after he had the conversation he said, but it was before the door. He asked about a move. And this whole technique is shown as martial art, but it is rather something that can be as martial art, but it is the technique for children and women in case the husband of the family, the father of the family was shot. Those had to survive afterward. Imagine a wagon on the street, and this is not the Wild West, it was the Wild East. But I'm not saying, and I'm not judging if I like it or not. It was a thing of survival, and now yes, but train it. This is one I do not want to show too much. There's a move that should had I don't know how this was distributed. 2 cities, and there was a relationship, the visitor said, and there were other visitors from Israel. One, a professor, he was complaining his students were not as bright as expected. Every immigrant there had to learn the Israelitic language. No. Yes, of course, the language. And then there was somehow sponsoring, and I don't know too much. It was like counseling investors, no, counseling those who had social money or welfare money. I don't know. I had been a child. But I'm now going into traces, and this is much too long. This is much long. I wanted to have 5 minutes, therefore let me run a little bit. Comedian harmonist. This is what had been in Breslau. Nowadays it is politically Poland and Wrocław. And it had been on the stage. It was professional. Those had concerts, and my father did not have the time. He did not have the time, but he was not communicating everything to my mother. Those secrets were necessary. It was really, I think, if you call the Dark Age, in German Mittelalter, a Dark Age, it was even, I don't know, it was officially taken the light away. This was this picture nothing exon. For me it is, I think, digitally put in that form. Also es können natürlich auch ein Gemälde sein, glaube ich auch nicht. I don't know too much about it. But it goes then, and this was my surfing on the internet, there is no direct, it is dancing. My mother, the younger, she said she was not pleased. She felt herself responsible for a girls group. She was somehow in a relatively small university, in the student, in a student group. I don't know if it was Studentenschaft in German, if it was officially, it was something where the students were organized. And there was a dance, and that was a program to learn to express yourself in dancing. And then my mother thought this was going too far. It was in the television, new techniques, and some girls were molested afterward. And that was a warning to me, but it was said in between. It was not a program to warn me, but to understand. Sometimes you don't know if it is planned or not, but it is to your disadvantage. Rather be cautious. Be cautious about things offered to you. And what can I say? This is looking into evidence. And those are not evidences, but they could be. A visit at the doorstep or a visit from a foreign country, that was interest in me, and I need evidence to understand was that interest, because my parents had been, from their character, that similar. I think it was more than that. There must have been different levels of acquaintanceship. And some I don't know. This is Albers, Heinz Albers, no, you can't see him. Now back to the, there's a small picture with Heinz Albers. And someone said Hans Albers, he was an artist's character. And I don't know if that is true or not. I overheard this. And this could be father and son. Sometimes people went to a show to learn, for example, representing or to have some expression of character. This was not done professionally, but it could have been on the same level. What is that? Oh, this is community harmonies as well. There was a try, and it was put into practice from a group. I myself was not able to do anything beyond that what was necessity that was chosen by my mother. And my health was not the best, but that was not the reason. There was my mother. She said, please stay free. And the community harmonists, therefore I was cautious. I didn't know what could come out of it, but I knew something is coming. And can you put that into practice? You can, if you are cautious. The world is contracted. If there really would be, adieu, mein kleiner Gardeoffizier, this is with legal contracts as well. I asked about it. My mother said, I don't know, she did not say it as a legal statement. She said it that I understood she was thinking about it, and then I understood this was a song, and still is, and somehow there is some, I don't know what, I gave it, or it was given. Is there a copyright? Could be, this could be. And then I myself heard, and for me that was not legal business, because that has to be done in written form. It was some remark, and then someone said, Sony is having it. But what is with Sony? And this is some embarrassment. Now coming to the conclusion, those people coming at the doorstep, they had an interesting character, And I was, my interest had been to learn about those very interesting people, and I met clever people giving me some answering. I was, and I'm still curious, and it is as it is. Put this, or I said to myself, I now want to put this. This is something this is not too much symbolic. I know about, I was rather raised with the expectation that you yourself have to decide. The most foremost was honesty, and I was very cautious. I was allowed to correct. And then there was the judgment of my mother. She said I did some errors in the past. I had a character like you blow up and become afterward. This is the character. And the father, he was known as well. And people who met me, I thought to myself, even they didn't say, assessed me. It was like meeting someone and then have your nose there to understand. And this was communication without words. And this is very important on the streets. I think this is from the forefathers. And then there are mysterious things, but the whole world is contracted. If I would have then the right, for example, this is possible, I don't know. I was at the grave. My mother said, please look, if the grave is good maintained. There was a man, Mama was nicht so gefährlich, so bei bestimmten Sachen. Gefährlich ist in Anführungsstrichen. My mother was not dangerous. There was, of course, authority. Papa, he was having it difficult. He was glad he had a home, he had trouble, and that was, I don't know what illness, that was not communicated. And Mama was expecting things of Papa, and Papa was not meeting the expectation. Therefore there was something, but the war was not that far away. There was a special law for Allied people, and special law for those who had suffered from injustices, human rights violations and breakings, and death and destruction and robbing and so on. And that came a short time to my knowledge when my mother was in the replacement of Sarah Leander. Sarah Leander, I looked into the case myself. I said this could be another helping with tricks involved. But this was among ourselves. We were quite sure people were not all that honest as we had been, and this is the foremost, but I'm very cautious. I must say, I thought people would be reliable, and then when they said something, I put it as granted and said to others, yes, I'm able to do it. I was promised this and then that did not come. But I was underage. This is important. As a small boy, I said, if I one time will be a prince, there was asking to be a prince, but this could today be someone else than in the old days. A prince is a principal, is the first among brothers, and representing a king with its business, the king as an entity with its business. And I in between I had that, but then I understood people were looking for someone. And sometimes another said, I won't do that. You work and then you have some thank you, like having a feast for 2 hours and you're working 20 years. And this in reality was a strange thing. I thought people were looking for a replacement of those who had diseased. And now understanding, I could be no replacement. It is of course what is there. I want to be trustworthy. This is my want. But I already learned that one was laughing, and I thought, why is he laughing? And I asked, why do you laugh about me saying people can be trusted? And some honest people said it is because of the expectations other had contracted us. And therefore I understood contracts are important, and when I know warning, there could have been misideas, false ideas, and even thinking about the evil thing of tricking maybe someone else to think he is a replacement. For me it was movies and theater. And there were movie play, theater play, and then someone said, no, this had not been a theater. But afterward I said, oh, yes, someone said this is not real. Signing the half fairway, this is rather not to say goodbye, this is to say it is a thing I respect as reality. In German die Abdankung von einem KARL, ich meinte in Böhmen, I think Bohemia, and there had been someone, and I was back then not that suspicious, but now I'm suspicious. Was he an actor or policeman? How can you check it? He came from the Czech Republic. It had been one country. Then afterward there had been different, and my counseling at the doorstep had been, Europe is growing together. I don't know if there had been a legal binding the two Czech republics together, Slovakic republics. Oh, sorry. This is important for me. Yes, for me as well, because I want to do it just, that it is done right. Counseling and weighing out, and then forgetting you have something in it. Yes, of course, I did not know. They were asking, and now I understand, what did people expect me to give gifts of land? I would first have looked for Karl's people, the travelsman. And I was asked if there was obligation to go to church. I said, I don't know, and one other said, yes, say yes. Therefore one at church that wouldn't do them any harm. And I asked my mother, and she said, my father did not want anybody to be forced to any belief. And then the Indian, no, he wasn't an Indian, he was a stuntman in the United States, I think. I don't know for sure. Why? I was a child, a dreaming child. A dreaming child, and this was good. To understand, there had been times where people could rely for each other, at each other. This was a country, and still is, where there is a mixing up of different moral beliefs, and this inside of the Germanic people, inside of the Federal Republic. And I understood to Bavaria, not Bavaria, Bavaria, they meant, sorry, this is not deliberate, they went, they did not bend, maybe they were. There was the idea to get the Silesian inventors. There was someone at the Schelenburg. He had formerly been co-worker of the inventors publication, I think on the night level that has been. On the night level, that is the Baron level. And he then understood, after World War II, he wanted to revive that, and there was not enough income. And then he looked closer, and he understood most had come from Silesia, Schlesien is that, in German Schlesien now, mostly in Poland, a little bit, but that is not what it had been. It can't. The shifting of times, of course, in wartime even more. And I think I can't assess it if I think it is negative. Also das kann ich nicht genau sagen. I can't say it for sure. German is my main language. I could explain it there much better, and I had not good English till the age of around 20 years. Then I understood I could learn more. My mother said those were specialists in learning. In the tribe system they had every specialist you may think about. Not from university, but from, I don't know from what. And I have not even the idea if that is true. It is fairy tale telling. And the system was around the world. Karl, Carlos, Charlie. And he himself was traveling as one carrying the luggage. Yes, my mother said he was, of course, being cautious. Then someone else was, and he was then once recognized by shoes. It was different. Undercover traveling and someone else playing the leader. This was security, so there is not much symbolic in this. 36 minutes, this is much too long, but this is about an important thing. Nobility. If it is still important, there could be the right, really legal right, a legal right for stamp production or for coin production. And I once talked about it, but only privately, and someone else said this could then be dangerous if that is accepted as a currency. There could be negative effect or unwanted effect. Therefore, I don't know what I would do. For me, this is not given away because I did not want to give it away. I want to have a very, very prudent talking and thinking about what I would do with it. It is no argument for me that I don't need it. And I do not even know if Karl had been the Karl or he was the chief executive or the chief officer. I don't know. And with us there had not been, my mother was a teacher, the expectations were high, what honesty, and then thinking. And if you don't know, ask the right questions. And I had the luck. This was out of school. I sometimes thought better I had no schooling at all. This of course is not what is in the best interest, but what I learned from the network of my mother. Scientists. Really in every field. There was a heart transplant in South Africa. There was some mixing up. I'm not a Netherlandish prince, but someone was looking for me. He had telephone contact with my mother, I think, and he was interested. And I'm interested myself, but I could not fulfill anything, nearly anything. I couldn't. Life is expensive if you want to do something extra and not fitting in the ordinary system. I now feel rather responsibility. What is with the others? Do they fit in? Those so-called travelsmen or nature people? It is strange that I once met one, a young man or boy, who said he was having ability to do quite a lot, but then there is the official need to have a diploma, and he was on having that. I overthought it and said to my mother, maybe schooling should be in our business as well. My mother said the biggest problem would be to find the right network and not to have conflicts, no unnecessary conflicts. Some conflicts are necessary, like having competition and be the better, but sometimes you do not want to have even that. It is from the strategy sometimes of interest to have someone who is nearly as good as you are. And that was in the automotive field. There was private input from my mother for the so-called platform modeling. This is important. I began to ask at the age maybe 15, Why are other people saying, don't do it that cheap? This is not good. People come to you and get it for granted at the doorstep, and I myself, but I have costs, I have expenses for the then insurance and so on. And then I got alarmed, and I went to my mother and said, responsibility. I cannot take for what I said. And she said, okay, I give it to someone, and he's looking into it. Therefore, there's someone else have been behind or in between. And this is really true, that Texas Instruments was then, there was a share, and from that share was Intel being built. And being considered as one of the losing people, I say, what does it matter? Nothing. I asked an American businessman, he said, no, we don't do it that way. This is not good for everyone, not good if someone gets something what he is not deserving to have. And people thought they had something big, and my mother said, no, this is only a little piece, but about the figures I got no idea. I was there at Vienna. I was ordered. No, it wasn't asking. It was no order. And please be sure there's someone who is guarding it. And I really got busted because I looked there. And then I had to explain and to persuade, I don't know if that was police. And this was no big mess for me. This had happened. But now I understand this could have been tricks. I was asked if I have any interest there, and I said, no, I only wanted to visit, but this no was not to give away anything else. I now understand there had been shares, unknown, totally unknown. It is not only about the right to govern, this is rather a right to work hard and like free will slavery. If you want to do it right, there is no holiday, no free time, no spare time. If you answer then the questions, and if your goal is everyone in my realm or kingdom shall be happy, you have that first. Then the people come to you and ask you. And my mother said there had been baron area, not a baron, but a baron, a knight area, a realm, a domain, and where it was, I don't know. And the so-called king, he was no king, he was not that big with this area. He had then his chief officer being allowed to wear his wig. And this had been for a long time. Therefore this must have been 16th, 17th century. And then it started that the king was there, and the other, the representative, he got a position as well. Therefore understood there is replacement, official replacement, and then there was discussion how much the people could do who were still having the affairs of my own father Fritz. But now I understand, if people think without their ethics, and rather this is for you to look at me and to understand who I am, but I do it for my mothers and Papa. Papa, I don't even want to think about. I had his as a teacher as well, but he was teaching me by his own. And he, of course, then should be much larger. He was there and showing human respect. And then my father was attacked because he was in the Third Reich. He was taught by teacher. And the teacher had then the situation where the merchants in New York had forbidden to buy German good. And the answer was racist. No, what was it? It was an answer, it was a wrong one, and he confessed it. My father was a confessor. He confessed things, but then, Mr. Scherer, that is the only Jew who confessed to be German and Jew. And then I forgot it. Maybe he was like, I am a Berliner. Really, could he be? Yes, he could well be. My mother said, yes, yes, those people in Breslau, and I thought at least I knew one of them, because he was like a counseling father, but he was not legally father. Yes, if you ask something as a boy, and you get answers, and someone is putting energy in it, he's like a counseling father. And Mr. Scherer said to me, normally he won't say anything behind the back of someone else, and he did not say much, but he said, I want to say that he was having much respect for my father. He's the only one in this city of Osnabrück who is confessing the Third Reich was evil. And I thought, oh, as we say in German, was ist denn das so? As I say in German, das ist doch klar. This is clear that the Third Reich had been evil. Who is questioning that? Who is questioning that the Third Reich is evil? Who is questioning that the Third Reich is evil? Who does so? It is known, I think, that politics was under the influence of false scientific, I don't know what. And then this maybe was the excuse to do it even more worse than before, but this does not mean that there had not been exceptions. And my papa, he was not even, he confessed, I think he was 14 years old. And Mr. Scherer said, this is not right. And he helped. But how did other people get at the information my father gave after the war? My father was not even, as we say, Mitläufer, but I was not I had nearly no interest, because I knew already, if you say you had good forefathers, the other people would shun you. Oh, he is someone better than we. I do not want that idea. I say it is very good. I had those resistance fighters, but my father was not against the interests of his fellow fighters in the military. This must be separated. As we say in German, mein Vater war nicht gegen die Kriegsziele. Er hat nur gesagt, der Russlandfeldzug, der wird so viel Schaden anrichten, er hat viel weniger Nutzen als Gewinn. Und damit hat er recht, deswegen war er dagegen und ich bin auch dagegen. Die Differenzen müssen anders besprochen werden. The differences must talked about, not with the weapons of war, but with sober looking into it. And I'm not saying I'm going into that what the colleagues of my father, who were lookalikes and who had contracted allowances to represent things, what they all had done. This is responsibility in the financial field. I'm very cautious. This Fedor of Bock, he was not an official representative, but my father, he was tricked into thinking he was being given a plate for something in Poland, and he understood this was a trick. I said in German, this is very important. Also dann gab es in Polen, also ich habe das von jemand gehört und dann nochmal von jemand, also das ist zweimal legendenmäßig, also keiner hat mir Dokumente gezeigt. Aber wahrscheinlich stimmt das. Und dann sagte meine Mutter, sie weiß noch nicht mal, ob das überhaupt der Vater gewesen war, der die Einladung angenommen hatte. Das heißt, ich bin ganz vorsichtig, da sollte ein Orden verliehen werden. Und dann hatte mein Vater gemerkt, das ist ein Trick. Es ging um eine andere Sache. Aber man hatte dann gemeint, man hätte den Verantwortlichen. Und dann war Krieg. Und das ist wirklich eine ganz wahre Sache. Leute wollen irgendwie an Geld kommen über die Familiengeschichte. Sie sind interessiert. Und dann bauen sie eine Verantwortlichkeitslinie auf. Deswegen sage ich, I don't allow that there's a responsibility line built up, and this is sometimes even done behind these scenes. And this is an evil trick, and this is sad to be on both sides. Mr. General Custer, he was having an army, and there had been crimes. But this is individually. There had been crimes in the German military, and this was by the own military being put in the paper. And then there had been the trying, and they did so, sad enough, to put it into the shoes of those who were not alive anymore. And my mother said, I can't accept it, and it was dangerous. And I said as well, I don't accept the idea, but I said, I won't do it, only when being in danger to talk about it. And this is danger for me, because the false ideas of me being sick is very much dangerous. For me it is even life-threatening to be put under medicine that would then give my brain not enough power to think about this very, very important world history. And this is world history, but others think about money, and I say, okay, if I go there, first of all I do it voluntarily, do not force it on me, and then it is done with the help of my own chosen legal aids. No one is talking on my behalf. You do not even know, I would say to a politician, what this is all about. You don't know. This is about responsibility. There came someone at the doorstep, he wanted to be my brother. And this was a church term, and even if it was not, how could this be done? How can someone become your brother? This then must have been with the office of a state entity. Therefore, my mother raised me with the idea, the officers had been the same as before. There was, I don't know if she said always, illegally, there were differences in this countryside. There had not only been one kingship. The Kaiser, he was like a president of the assembly of kings and grand dukes. There had been one king, or there hadn't. Then the position maybe was, there had been Westphalia, I don't know, Brandenburg, no, this is Prussia. Then the king of Prussia had the largest territory. But nevertheless, they had been different. Bohemia, this had, I don't know, I don't think so that this has ever been put into place, that officially there had been a king of Bohemia. Then there came the idea, who had been king of Hungary? But I'm very cautious. I'm not running to conclusions. There was a reality show, and I was allowed, on behalf of Karl or Fritz, maybe Fritz took on the name of Karl, and my mother said, oh. And I said, why? I didn't anything wrong. If this is in a movie, I did it right, as it had been real, but if it were real, I resigned. But I said clearly that my responsibility is not what you want, but it is that what really was there. My mother knew that each region had delegates. Those were, I don't know if it is, I really don't. This is detective speculation, but it is necessary, you understand, the motives for me to look closer. It is not only about goods, but it is about legal rights and successor rights and giving advice, rights and so on, and I don't know if I can fulfill anything. It is not about that. It is about the possibilities. And me now recognizing that others, and this is speculation, but what is a fact? That others might have had that in their minds for a long time. Fact is, I was in movies playing historical characters. Another fact is, someone said this now was real, and the fact as well is, I was not officially said yes or no. I said to my mother, are there really people who want to have a king who is a religious leader? who is saying openly, I must ask God to give me a clean conscience about this and that. If that is the case, I would look into it. There is as well then the question how many officers could help me, and how's the relation to the church or the churches. I don't know how to look at it. It is about real decisions, making it a better welfare for the people living there. And it is for me, I think I do not need people who run to conclusions. What I hear till now is, no, this is not possible. And I'm saying there are different areas, layers, better layers. There's first the private one. Even there are promises. When you promise, if you promise to someone, I take care of your child, then of course the promise is open. No one knows how much care you promise. No one other than you, and maybe the other if you talked enough about it. And in this field, I understand there are real rights for some people being meddled like on the stock markets. But that is another layer. And then there is the layer of real stocks. And then there is a layer of optional things. And I'm not saying, I'm not interested in the real assets. No. But I'm saying, please understand, there was not enough communication. I thought this is open, but then I feel myself, because I myself demanded from me, to be someone who is reliable. And the other may be misunderstanding and have another definition. And there was China. And my mother did not tell me what there had been. She said there was raising a holiday father, and he promised his daughter. That was the other girl. And this is strange, was it? Or wasn't it? Look how old my mother had been. I believed. My mother said what she knew, or she wanted to know, what she believed. And now coming to points where with Haus Bertha, where with the Reichsverband Jüdische Frontkämpfer, and this was strange, my father being Protestant, he had chosen this assembly, this private assembly, or was it officially? My mother said, I don't know if he had been a member, maybe he had a special standing there as well. Reichsverband Jüdische Frontkämpfer, this is Jewish, my father not being Jewish. It was allowed. Why? Because those had the first layer, the character. The others had to know him. And how was it with the Kyffhäuser? This should have been, according to what my mother said, that assembly of soldiers, of ex-frontline fighters, and having been in movies and having ideas for, like Janet Oak, the idea to write a novel is an idea. Then it goes to a circle who could sponsor it, and then an author is looked for, and in the looking you look for the character of the author, and for me it was very honoring, and for this lady it was dishonoring. I had to give her that many, but I thought she's like a mother. I did not want to give her a false idea. I said, you are a visitor and you see how strange it is around, and I'd rather this time, as we say in German, make the cold turkey approach, also mit der Tür ins Haus fallen, cold turkey approach. I lamented, and I'm glad I did so. I'm glad I did so, because afterwards she said, now I understand. But it was very polite. You do not meddle into the affairs of other families. You don't do so. This all had been the whole time after the war, till now, aftermath of the Third Reich. And this is, for me, a thing. Maybe I can help other people as well. But some people have already shipwrecked. Some people are already like shipwrecks on the beach. But even those you could help, but I'm not helping right now. I can't afford that. Maybe with information, we will help us. And then someone came and said, why you are giving it away? And I said, I'm not giving it away, I'm counseling. And then it goes to, I don't know if it is an assembly, it is an unknown group. It is not an assembly that is officially like a Verein in German or like a Genossenschaft. No, it was unknown. Those people had private interest. That was what I thought about. But then came someone, he said so, he came from Amsterdam. I can't prove that. I was raised with great caution. But then I thought, he has no weapon and this is a safe country. You can open the door and talk to people. And then came someone who said, no, I can't stay here. He came from South Africa. I don't know exactly where he came from. I think I didn't open the door, but he was in the living room. Then I came there and I explained that this is not secured and you can jump over the fence and you can come from all sides. And then he said, I won't stay in this house. And he said goodbye. He was someone, I now conclude, who had a right to be cautious. We are in a country where it was communicated this is a safe country, nothing is happening, and this now is alarming. I was busted at the street and I thought it could be police, therefore I followed. Maybe I could later break out if necessary, and then after 3 days I understood this is a hospital? Crazy. New ideas of what? Of whom? This is really the case. I'm not being shy about it. I learned about the so-called gypsies. Those were, because of their ancestry, forcefully treated. Are people thinking I'm a gypsy? This is not positive or negative. This is a gypsy. In German, Zigeuner. I'm not a member of the Roma and Sinti. Those are two main tribes, I think. And I do not know too much about it. There have been friendly relationships and trust. KARL, he was a leader, and he was no gypsy anymore, but he had many of the men he knew. The culture, I think, this is conclusion. I did never meet KARL. He officially died in 1934. And this is from, but this was written and signed with blood. This really was important. And I don't know if I have the original, also es ist mit Blut wohl gestempelt. This is an important document, but it is from other documents. It is from other documents. Therefore, the data could be a little bit, and I mean only this is a scan. This is a scan, and the other, that is my conclusion. And I'm cautious. I do not want to put my foot in it. What the Polish honor system is concerned, or the Baltic. And I can only explain what I learned from my mother. My mother, she had respect for Pauline, and I learned as well Pauline had breathing problems because being burned. In a judgment that was said, I never saw a document. There was a document, maybe this is right. How old was Fritz if he really had been born? And some said it could be his uncle. And I now understand he was then, because he was officially born 1894. He then had, for the affairs before, that others would not always question him, and this was a king's right to do so. But I want to have it as it had been. I do not want to solve it according to American law. This is not to be applied, and not to Bundesrepublik law. This is not to be applied. The law of the time is to be applied, and there had been an own law system. But this is important. This is officially a document, but from other documents. And this is right. Indirectly, others accepted that when I talked as a child. And some said, Karl was having that name. In German it is understood. For me as a child, I listened and I could ask questions, but sometimes the other was answering, sometimes not. This was a system where respect was there, and I'm glad I learned from those fighters through life. Those said, you think life is nice, you're not raised the right way. I heard it, but I thought, if that is really that dangerous, why are people not allowed to be armed? I'm not allowed to wear a revolver. I'm not. I was with a hunting company, and I know that it is dangerous. If someone is behind you, their shot went off. And I was not harmed. And there are accidents. But not to be allowed to arm yourself, this then gives the official entities a great responsibility. But I myself must be cautious. There could be people in the DDR, there had been their own government against its own people. Not totally, not 100%, it was said by some. Those people were rebels. Those people were not fitting in, and then they moved to the West. And then I understood sometimes it was right, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was a right description. Legally, I don't say, please, I'm not a judge right now. I'm not a judge. There is the human right, and even that is changing a little bit. The human right of the time, what did it say? Was it the Magna Carta, the so-called? And this is important. Some said there was not signing the Hager Landkriegsverordnung, the I don't know how to say it in English, the Hague war order, or the war law code. It's important, I'm interested, and even that is important. I got it before my birth, and they did not even know who you would come out. And yesterday I looked a little bit more into the Mr. Marshall and his wife, and I now remember she once said, holding me in her hands, I wasn't more bigger than 2 hands. Look at my nose. I have a nose that is a little bit broader than ordinary, and you have a little bit, hopefully no breathing problems, but it turned out I have a little bit. But she took good care, and she thought even about adopting me. I need proof, but not too much. Too much not. If you look too much into it, you meddle into others' affairs. I do not want to do that, but I need proof that it was important to her not to say good or not good. She was very good as a caring mother, a professional mother, but a nurse. But she is no mother. Oma, I mean. The elder said, what did she say? She had people to help. Still a network. Was Mr. Marshall in the network of the maybe black and Indians together? And Karl like someone in in the door gate between the Indian black nature people and Western. What is with the Eastern countryside? Those got later into effect after the Tsar of Russia. Who had he been? The Tsar of Russia. Why was it they're asking? There was recognition, but how? I was not asking too much, being there, you are safe, but I was shown the room. And if I consider it legal, that there had been the judgment executed. And then I heard for the first time there had been a judgment. I went home and my mother said something, I can't remember. I do not want to meddle into other affairs. Why was there looking for a Johanna? And my mother stood in the kitchen and said, they do not allow me. What? This is a free country? Is it or isn't it? Is there a requirement to get allowance? To get the permission to look into history? Please understand the layers. Very private, and in the very private there's your religious persuasion. It is important, you have reliability. If you get it out of religion, this is very good. Hopefully there is no religion who gives you excuses. The only excuse could be if there is a violation. This is an excuse as well. My father, as my mother, according to my asking, I was like a detective, I wanted to know more. I did see his picture the first time. I did see the picture before, but I did not know this was my father. And I said, that is the hero in the life of my mother? He's not looking like Hollywood hero. And I say, of course. He was that old, but he was a hero because of his ability, of his reliability. Reliability, that it is what counts. And I'm looking for chances, not to jump over fences, but to understand what it is about. I'm looking for legal grounds. And there are legal grounds. And then it is not a quick thing to calculate. It is rather, and this now has become longer, this is not planned, it is self-developing, but it is to look at evidences, for me evidences, but for others, what is hard evidence? This Strebergarten, this garden, hard evidence is someone came and wanted to honor a resistance fighter in Belarus and Ukraine, and the Ukraine. And then my mother said, oh, this might not be good. He was a co-worker, and he then was self-responsible. But she said she don't know. She don't know. It is possible that there had been contracts, but I'm saying Karl is a man, and Karl gave it to me. There is not the circumvent through Fritz, because Fritz had not had it in his hands. But even without any goods, it is important for me. The name is important, reliability. But my mother said there should be something. And I knew others were complaining the war had destroyed everything. Why had I been at Daimler-Benz? And there was an engineer who said they want to take it, what I have as a share, and they want to give it to somewhere else. And this as a boy, not even that age, maybe a little bit bigger. And I asked my mother, whom is he referring to? Someone else? And it was a law that people had to pay for breaking breaking, yeah, what? I don't know. I don't know. It is not that quick and dirty as people thought. The anti-Nazi reimbursement movement was not quick and dirty. It was very, very precise. Therefore I understand this must be a precise thing, and it is well governed, I'm very sure, but why do people not having had any contact with me? Before the doorstep, this is contact, I don't mean that. I mean a legal contact. And there had been contacts, but this was something else. It was not about my goods. Indirectly, but I couldn't do things in politics. I couldn't do things in the security business. I had to, before I even took it over, there was an offer for a reliable, where reliability was the foremost position in a security system. And I understood this could be very constricting. I could then do the other things not anymore. Therefore I couldn't do that. It was said you can do it for some days, and I understood if there then was responsibility, things, and this is important. When you take over, if you take over a position, responsibility in the financial field as well, therefore look into it if you do something. And for me this was the training from the start. And I communicated to officials of the state, of the city, and of federal states when I had any contact, and when I had been asked, I want first to know. I want first to know. Even this little song, Mein kleiner Gardeoffizier, even that has some rights involved, and my mother said so. She said so, she gave it to someone, but what does that mean? This could be she gave the record, die Schallplatte, to someone that then was not legal. Was she allowed to give it to someone else? I do not even know that. Then it would not have any effect. And it is really the case that I want to show you that then I got some problems. And this was reenactment, this Adieu, mein kleiner Gardeoffizier 1930, as well. Therefore I can't say, because the reenactment is precisely in the same costumes, that you wouldn't even understand who it then is. And I can remember I was allowed to play in the shoes of my father. There was no question, and this was Kolberg. But I don't know if you see me or the original. And this is very important. The attention as well. This could be misunderstood. I'm not saying this was good. I'm not saying that at all. No, not Berlin. Yes, this was then coming out of the, as I called him, but my mother said he was not the worst. And I was fed up with all the things. This little one. And when you have the time, I had a mask, and I did not have it too close. Also ich habe dann die Maske nicht zu sehr, but I don't know who many said so, and it was self-developing in part. I got possibilities, and when I said German dream, a German dream, that does not mean that I have no dreams. That does not mean I do not follow a vision, but look at the architect. Do not forget the feelings and the cultures of the neighboring countries. And this is not psychology that I learned, it is the want. If you are in government and you really do it well, you want all people to have a welfare life, but not to give them things if necessary. But then expecting from others, look at it, please do so, what the other is behaving. And I had been as a Protestant, but I'm not officially Protestant. in a Jewish family, and there was a good being raised, a very good one, and I was very cautious. Those had all senses together. And I was understood as a boy who was having a little bit trouble, or even more. And this was an aftermath, and still is. No, I'm not looking for excuses. It was said by the others. And then I learned others are having it much more worse. There had been a doctor, he was counseling the whole family, and this was quite important. I don't know exactly, but between the age of 10 and 14. And he lived with the family and looked for the chances. The child, there had been two or three others, I don't know very much. It's a long time ago, more than 40 years. 41 years, 42 years. And this was at a place, and the father knew, I think, where I came from, but it was an honor for me to have this, and I was very interested in the assessment. And it is true, there is a burden, but this is not illness, it is rather something to understand. The children were not treated because of illnesses, but because to have a better bringing up, a better training. And this in this new Federal Republic, 2024 it is now, is not possible. You go to a doctor when you have an illness. For training, of course, in the old tribe system, not a tribe system anymore, I say like a tribe system, it was families you were giving work. And the character was same of importance, in the same importance level, on the same level, or even more than what he could do. Both together, I cannot say it for sure, it is individually different. And this was important for me. I got an assessment, but understood the children had much demands to fulfill. With me it was not that strict. My mother had no one else. But no, I can't say it. In German, also meine Mutter hatte natürlich keinen anderen. Manchmal fühlte ich, dass ich ihre Erwartungen ja gar nicht erfüllen konnte. Aber dann hatten wir Gespräche. This is in German important. I had my mother, the elder especially, and the younger, she had expectations as well. Where's my mother, the younger? She had expectations as well. And it is very important that both understood some things. Better you don't do anything. And there was the wait till the times would be better. The waiting that the Allied special laws would not be that demanding. And I understood when I said it to an Allied, to a merchant who was, for example, from America or Great Britain, I understood that is a false excuse. But why was that excuse? I don't know. Why was it that often? Somehow in between we lost the war. I understood other people in this country had other expectations. Their wars had been still revenge. And this was because, I think so, being in a family that had internationally a network, this was not the foremost topic. You can't work internationally and then think about revenge one country after the other. Of course, it is there, and the revenge could be that it is said that the vengeance had not all come from the country that claims it. But it is not for me. I do not want to touch all those. This is an American, or this is a Russian invention, and this is Polish, and this is German. Of course, it is all Karl's men. this is a little bit with humor. It is all the peoples of the world. But indeed, the problems in Africa, for example, that there had been much killing in the whole slavery process, that then prevented, this is very much sad, the leadership qualities. But you can see the differences. There had been different colonial powers, and some worked together. But taking over responsibility could mean death. Therefore, I was raised in this peaceful, as it was communicated, peaceful country, but German angst. That was there. And I myself was in the responsibility, and this was no questioning, it was expected. And I do not want to, and I don't do communicating about it. It was my mother, she was asked and then filled in. And there were the differences that big that no American or Russian specialist was, now a judgment specialist was allowed. And then my mother was working with others, and I'm not saying I can do this right now. This is detective work, and this is Friedrich, and this is really something, please look into if you can help somehow. This is a single one, me a single one, who had not wanted to be single one, but I understood even that situation should be survived. I had been with a specialist in a little bit training. We went into a desert, and 7 days, we had to feed ourselves. And there were special sceneries and special rules. With a knife in the desert. I had no own father who could do it. This was, I think, not always the same, but a man being somehow legally doing the affairs. And now I'm not that comfortable. Hopefully he was not pushed. He was not pushed to do things he would not have done without the illegal forces to force him to do things he normally wouldn't do. This, please understand, is not a conspiracy, it is reality. That people are pushed to do things, maybe with contracts that somehow are of the nature to be thought to stand above. And this sometimes is a thing forgotten. This sometimes is forgotten. I had been with diplomats in the diplomatic group. I was invited. There are many helpers needed, and I learned a little bit, or even more about the diplomatic securities, contracted securities, or the tryings to make it secure, that no trickery is allowed. And there I had an asking to record it, because my nose, my feelings told me there could something happen. And this is important. This must be secured, the backups and so on. It is very important. I do not want to use it against anybody. This is not my style, but it is important that I had that feeling, and it was recorded, and then I declined when people said, no, you can use it against someone else. But I do not even want to think about it, that it could then given me as an accusation that I did not use it. I said in German again, also das gibt es natürlich auch. Da muss ich dann aber aufhören, 1 Minute 29, 45. wenn ich Dinge nicht gemacht habe. Ich war eingeladen in einen Diplomatenkorps, ich bin da mitgefahren. Ich musste Dinge können, ich war auch schon etwas bekannt. Und die Entschuldigung hier im Land, also man benötigt ein Studium oder ähnliches, das ist ja ganz nett. Wenn man jetzt ein Beamter hier werden will, dann dürfen die auch die Forderungen aufstellen. Aber dort war die Vorsicht am wichtigsten und ich hatte die Ahnung, es könnte etwas passieren. Und das war dann leider eingetreten. Aber dann war es noch schlimmer für mich, dass ich die Aufforderung bekam, ich sollte das jetzt nutzen. Und da muss ich sagen, das ist keine Unterlassung, sondern das ist einfach eine Sache, wo ich jetzt davon ausgehe, am Ende soll ich, derjenige, der geschädigt ist, sogar noch verantwortlich gemacht werden. Das muss verhindert werden. Das muss unbedingt verhindert werden, weil das darf einfach nicht sein. Das ist dann der Trick der Verfristungsausnutzung. Das ist wirklich so, da muss man wirklich aufpassen. Ich bin auch eingeladen worden zu diesem Bergbauabschied und ich habe das meiner Mutter erzählt, was ich herausgefunden hatte. Das waren teilweise nur Verdächtigungen und unter uns. Unter uns konnten wir auch so reden. Das war schon bekannt. Wie sicher ist das? Und dann haben wir das beschrieben und dann wussten wir, das sind erstmal Vermutungen. So wie wenn man in der Wüste steht und sagt, hier müssen auch andere Lebewesen sein, denn man sieht ein paar Spuren. Und so ist das, dass hier Interessen sind, die kann ich noch nicht mal einem Land zuordnen, aber wo man nachher vielleicht sogar versucht, irgendwie etwas auszunutzen, was nicht durchgeführt worden ist. Das kann gemacht werden, das darf hier aber ausdrücklich nicht geschehen. Ich hatte mich auch erkundigt, aber das sind nur Einschätzungen. Deswegen geht es hier darum, dass man versteht, wenn sowas durchgeführt wird, das darf noch nicht mal legal sein. Wenn man jetzt absichtlich Dinge herbeiführt, wo man am Ende dann sagt, das haben Psychiater gemacht, das ist psychiatrische Kriegsführung. Nein, das sind Leute gewesen, die einfach verstanden haben, know your enemy, know your land. That had very often been said in Man Tracker, and I did not give away any land. I said sometimes it is now yours. This does not mean I present it as a gift. This is only a saying. Please take it seriously. Not all who formerly had been the tribe system are friends. Those who have own interests, but I do not want them as enemies as well. I don't want people as enemies. I want to look into it, that this then would be the using of state powers against an individual. I have no group. I'm an individual. I had already said goodbye to the idea working in the diplomatic field because I understood it is now totally different than 50 or 100 years ago. It is very, very much contracted, and this is good. My main interest had been in the invention, merchandising, and then building up of things. But I could have my own architects, my own engineers, my own inventors. But please, do not even want me, even the idea I do not follow, to have me contract myself into a narrowing up. I want to follow the good laws of the land, the good laws of the world. But if there is, for example, some gender demand, maybe I then do something else or move to another country. This is very much of importance. Thank you very much for your understanding. And please understand, after World War II, the trickery went on, and it was inside of the country, it was between the European countries and inside of those, and then people represented themselves as being someone and they had not been. Therefore I don't know if always the same man from Canada had been here at my doorstep. I never contracted anything. One had the idea I could then have my main field in the east. Maybe. He had the idea to be the grandfather, and this is of course his idea. And there is not even any legal binding talk. There could be, but this was those who were following, no, those who were trustworthy and did the business, prolonged the business according to the best knowledge of businessmen. Also ich kann mich erinnern, in German Again, weil es geht schon in Details, dass wir beraten hatten, wie die Börsen ethisch arbeiten. Ich meinte 1 bis 1,5% und nach welchen Maßgaben die jetzt vergeben werden. Und wenn man da zum Beispiel was geändert hat, dann würde ich das nicht automatisch jetzt autorisieren. Deswegen darf es keine Generalautorisierung oder rückwirkende Autorisierung geben. Und es darf auch nicht es ist aber wahrscheinlich ausgenutzt. Da kann es sein, dass ich manche Dinge dann erst über die Jahre überhaupt regeln kann. It is very important. I got tricked into the position of a bank representative. And I asked someone and he said, yes, this looks like a trick. Because there was a text line, I would graciously give everything else to the state. I would be satisfied with that position. Also irgendwie so Vorstandsmitglied, da bekommt man auch Geld. This is very important, it goes into details, and I felt tricked. What I did, I made another line that I don't want it. And this was signed as well. As my will, I do not want to give things away. I do not want to give it to the church. I do not want to give it to state executives or to others. And this is important. This does not mean that I can do it alone. This is a single contract. In German again. Also ich möchte das nicht pauschal irgendwie abgeben. Überhaupt nicht. An für sich gar nicht. Wenn ich das dann doch mache, dann ist das ganz klein umrissen, individuell. Das gleiche war zum Beispiel in Bayern. Da ist ein Gelände gekauft worden von Unbekannten. Ich weiß noch nicht mehr von wem. Und dann habe ich aber die Vollmacht bekommen, die Einzelvollmacht. Und ich habe das dann praktisch zurückgegeben, um eine Spur zu hinterlassen, dass ich nicht vergessen werde. Das ist völlig legal, denn man hat mich gewarnt, die werden das vergessen. Die Alten leben bald nicht mehr, die werden das vergessen. Und da war ein Kasernengelände gekauft worden von Unbekannten und der hat gesagt, du kannst das haben. Und ich habe gesagt, ich gebe das zur Verwaltung einer staatlichen Stelle, denn es ist wichtig, dass verstanden wird, dass ich das nutzen will, aber dass ich mitreden will, aber dass ich nicht Altlasten übernehme. Denn was ist, wenn man das bekommt? Ein Kasernengelände und das ist mit Munition oder mit Biokampfstoffen verseucht. Was ist denn dann? Deswegen bitte vorsichtig, ich kann nicht alle Fallen erkennen, aber wir 3. Also Mama war darin wohl nicht so gut. Mama war mehr in Kindern interessiert, also dann vergaß sie mich, dir geht's gut, sagte sie. Ein Kind mit Nachteilen, dann hat Mama lange Zeit gehabt. Und wenn ich dann sagte, mit mir hast du doch noch gar nicht so lange gesprochen in diesem Monat. Und das war so in dem Alter, ja. So redet man in dem Alter. Später sagt man das nicht mehr, aber wir waren eine enge Familie. Hier brauchte ich schon Rat. Rat ist nötig, ist sehr, sehr kostbar. Papa konnte das nicht so gut. Papa hatte versucht als Vorbild, aber dann teilweise auch negativ, weil er hat viel zu schnell bekannt. Herr Scherer hatte mal gesagt, das ist ja der bekannte, also hier in Osnabrück schon in einigen Musiker, also bei den Musikern bekannter Klavierlehrer und Geigenlehrer. Er möchte das sicher nicht haben, dass ich das sage, aber ich muss das mal sagen, der Herr Scherer hatte gesagt, dass er Papa sehr achtet, aber er hätte das überhaupt nicht sagen müssen. Papa ist 14 Jahre alt gewesen und hatte dann die falsche Ideologie eines Lehrers nachgeplappert. Und sogar das hat Papa das Gewissen bedrückt. Und da muss ich sagen, ich habe auch Fehler gemacht, aber ich möchte nicht mehr Verantwortung übernehmen, als wirklich sinnvoll ist. Do not take up too much responsibility. This is important. People ask you and think you are a clergyman. I am not. My mother, she was a believer, and my mother was a believer, and Papa as well. But that was supposed to make us reliable and to make us peaceful, that we had a better togetherness. but giving it to others was single use, what was individually. And there was the false rumor we would give to the fallen girls, and that went very much too close. Also ich habe mich sehr geärgert, als man dann sogar behauptete, wir würden uns um gefallene Mädchen kümmern. Das ist doch so ein Quatsch. False rumors, and who said so, I don't know. I can't go after false rumors, but please, for you, it is important to understand. Please ask me myself. False rumors that went overboard could make very, very evil results, like a wildfire. And this is the thing, very important. I was never a member of any group, not of a Jewish group, or of a Protestant group, not of a tribes group, not of a nobility house group, or something else. I was even invited to Poland, but I'm not Polish. Ja, da muss man echt aufpassen. Da muss man aufpassen. Ich bin da wirklich mal eingeladen worden. And it was said it had been the custom to sign things, and I had to write to it. Nicht gelesen, nicht verstanden. Vielleicht habe ich sogar geschrieben, aus Höflichkeit unterschrieben. Das heißt einfach, ich habe es gar nicht verstanden. Nur wenn man zum Beispiel im Hotel, at a hotel you are signing things. And I was very much alarmed when I got something that was suspicious, but you can't do anything. You stop signing it. Or you sign, I do it because I felt threatened, yes. This had been as well. And this is coactus fecit, CF. And my mother did things, and she said, you have to look into it and authorize it. There is no giving over of signing powers to a Mr. Wagner. Even when I said, oh, this is too much work for me. This is then being a trustworthy man, and maybe the other is trustworthy, but that is for you to decide. It is you that decide if he is trustworthy or not. Even if I did say so, he is not for me a trustworthy man, for me. This had once been said, and this was for political things. Also sogar wenn ich einen Fehler gemacht haben könnte, möchte ich dringend das wissen. Man hatte mal einen Vertrag, dass man alles einsetzen will, das war unter Politikern, auch das Vermögen und so weiter. Und dann habe ich geschrieben, soweit vertretbar. Und jede Einschränkung heißt, ich muss individuell gefragt werden. Denn das kann kein anderer entscheiden, wie viel vertretbar. Und selbst wenn ich es nicht gemacht habe, ist das hiermit schon seit mindestens 4 Jahren, wo ich ahne, oder das kann ich nicht sagen, 4, vielleicht 2, das kann ich auch nicht sagen. Ich weiß immer noch nicht genau, ich muss auch aufpassen. Please do not run to conclusions heißt, bitte nicht zu schnell zu einem Resultat kommen. Selbst wenn hier jetzt zum Beispiel Regierungsrechte wären, da muss man gucken, was das ist. Denn man will doch jetzt nicht, welche Position will man übernehmen. Wenn da Münzprägerechte sind, muss man doch gucken, was bringt das? Was kostet eine Münze, die man prägt? Darf man das als Zahlungsmittel einsetzen? Man kann doch nicht in einem System, was weltweit unter Vertrag steht, irgendwie etwas übernehmen. Das ist doch Fantasie, das macht überhaupt keinen Sinn. Aber solche Rechte, wenn die noch da sind, das können auch Braurechte sein, das können auch Wegerechte sein, das können auch noch Kanalrechte sein. Das weiß ich nicht, aber ich habe davon gehört. I overheard there are rights you could use in a monetary way, like shipping rights, like the rights to have a harbor, or like post business, or radioing, also hier Telekommunikation, radioing, or other things. I don't know anything about it, but I overheard it, that other people talked about it, and this was the counseling business. It was not only nobility, but it was the counseling that gave the rightful assessment what would be right, even if there is no law that could regulate it. The rightful thinking goes mostly mostly after the idea, do to others what you would have them do to you. What would you do if you would be in my shoes? Then think about it. What is right? You can't do that on the football game. There it is a game, and sometimes it is in other business as well, like it. But even there, think about it. Do to others as you would have them do to you, but do not allow others to decide that on my behalf. Thank you very much.